Greed and gluttony sound like words used in a sermon or an old textbook. But today, I'm going to talk about how the system modernized both of them and how platforms capitalize off of them. I'm going to be using two creators' content to really drive this point home. My boy Jboolin
She ready. My face is hell like a wedding. Don't you gon' pop shit while you hezzy. Need to go to
and that boy Tismallah.
And though my heart can't take no more, I keep on running back to you. See my days.
I appreciate if you guys would like, comment, sub. Also follow the socials. Link be in the description. Before I start this video, I have nothing against those two people. I'm just talking about their content and what I see. Let's get the definitions though. Gluttony means you just keep consuming past the point of enjoyment. Food counts, but the definition does not stop at food. It also includes content, shopping, validation, information. All these things can turn into gluttony. And then greed just means reaching past your share. People hear money, but greed also shows up as attention hunger, status hunger, credit hunger, and control hunger. In practice, greed often looks less like a cartoon villain and more like a person just trying to avoid being ordinary. Now that we got the definitions, let's start talking about how we see them in normal life and normal routines. Gluttony shows up when consumption becomes a default behavior instead of a response to an actual need. That is why it blends into everyday life so easily. People scroll past the moment where the content is even entertaining, but they just keep going anyway. People binge a show and then forget what they watched because the goal wasn't enjoyment anymore. It was just sedation or distraction. And then people order food without even being hungry. They just need something to comfort themselves. So gluttony is not always too much. A lot of the time it's just too long. And if gluttony is the loop, greed is the grab. The difference matters because the greed rarely announces itself as greed. Greed shows up under cleaner labels, which makes it harder to confront it as a pattern. It hides behind hustle, it hides behind competition, or I'm just doing what I have to do. You see it as entitlement, treating workers like obstacles. You see it as control hunger, needing the last word or needing every situation on your terms. You see it as credit hunger, claiming wins you didn't even earn. Or you might see it as status hunger, buying identity instead of building it. Most of the time, this doesn't look dramatic. It looks anxious. It looks like someone trying to secure a spot in a world that keeps implying there aren't enough spots to go around. That's the general picture. Now I want to make it concrete because nothing exposes these patterns faster than a situation where a loop and a chase collide in public. And of course, the loop and chase colliding in public in question, that is the Jboolin versus Tismallah, their food battles. The reason the food battles matter is not because they're the most important thing happening online. They matter because they're a miniature version of the modern attention economy. A recognizable format appears, it becomes a loop people enjoy watching, then the chase begins because visibility turns into a resource and resources attract competition. What looks like entertainment on the surface ends up revealing how the system rewards appetite. So now we're going to talk about Tismallah because he starts the loop. So before we get into the Tismallah loop, let me just kind of explain his content. The dude basically, he eats and kind of overeats past the enjoyment, but he does it for the love of the game. He genuinely just loves food and he just be eating. I'll play some clips.
oh, crispy chicken. K5 cousin and all that. Got the 2 liters on deck. Who telling me what? I got la boca, nigga. Every day we eat good. 2 foods. Tismallah. Funny, I wasn't hungry. I just felt like eating, so I cooked this up. I can taste the shrimp. I know it's a roach. And faithfully, I eat this. Oh my God, this is so action-packed. I literally need the devil to help me for this. Oh yes, what a sub. I don't know how to attack this, really. This is so big. Oh my God. It's a subathon.
Oh, what the fuck what did you just say?
He be doing it for the love of the game. It's gluttony, pure gluttony. Tismallah's of content works because it's built like a ritual. The content is familiar, repeatable, and instantly recognizable. That recognizability matters more than people admit it. It reduces friction for the viewer. Your brain does not even have to decide what it's watching. It already knows the vibe, so it stays. This is why gluttony fits as a lens here. Not too much food, but consumption as continuation. The format is built to keep moving, and the audience learns to enjoy the momentum. And a loop does not even need an ending. It just needs fuel. So now, we're going to talk about Jboolin, because it's fueling the loop. Jboolin's content is, he kind of was imitating Tismallah, and he got popular off that, and he just kind of, his greed for fame, or his greed for attention led him to keep copying somebody's gluttony, which is like, I feel like it's the purest form of greed.
For me, you just gamble for the food. For me, feel me? Spare rib tips, man. Feel me? Pork fried rice. Feel me? Egg wah. Feel me? Every day we eat good.
Jboolin fits as the chase side of the case file because online attention is measurable. Views, comments, shares, follower counts, everything becomes a scoreboard. And once a scoreboard exists, behavior changes. When a format is working, the incentive is to move fast, take space, and become recognized where the moment passes. That pressure is why the community frames the situation as copying, clout chasing, or wave riding. Whether you agree with that framing or not, the framing itself is the point. It shows you how quickly attention turns into territory. Fame hunger rarely asks what something means. It asks whether it hits or misses. Now zoom out again, because the most revealing part is not either person, it's what the audience and the platform do once the storyline forms. The community turns it into a season. Editors create episodes, reactions create rankings, people pick sides because it makes content easier to process. The platform rewards all of it because it increases watch time, engagement, and repeat viewing.
We'll never be the same.
Niggas crazy. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm in this bitch, man.
Okay, so what? Do you and Jboolin have beef? Like, I've been seeing like TikTok, y'all got beef and shit. Is that real?
No. I don't beef with people, bro. You know what I'm saying? I bring down a fire and I extinguish.
Yo, Jboolin, he talking crazy. I ain't gonna lie.
You call me goofy? Bro, I know you didn't call me goofy, bro, and I'm breaded up. I know you didn't call me goofy and I'm breaded up, bro.
This is the modern version of a hype machine. The story gets flattened into a rivalry because rivalries travel faster than nuance. Cautious voices sound boring next to conflict, so they get ignored. And in the end, the platform does not need a villain. It needs a storyline. Y'all seen this in the last video with the Christy Desmond and Yana and Marlon situation. But this is just a different angle on how platforms capitalize basically off of anything nowadays. The case file is small, but it points to a bigger question. Why does modern life keep producing loops and chases in every category? Older life basically had built-in breaks, but now everything is kind of 24/7. I also hit on this like in the last video as well. There's 24/7 everything, 24/7 shopping, delivery at every hour, notifications that never stop, and artificial urgency through limited drops and scarcity marketing. A world that makes appetite easier to maintain than satisfaction. Gluttony thrives when consumption has no natural stopping point, and greed thrives when comparison becomes constant and public. So that explains the environment. The next layer explains the behavior, why it becomes compulsive instead of occasional. Modern platforms run on uneven rewards. A post hits, then the next one dies. A scroll gives you something great, then wastes your time for 10 minutes. A notification lights your screen up and it's either validation or nothing useful. We all been there. Check it, like, you know, you got that notification, you're like, oh, who texted me? My nigga, it was Clash of Clans. Your base is getting raided.
That's tough. That's tough.
In that uneven reward schedule, trains checking. Checking becomes habit, and habit becomes background behavior. At that point, it's not about desire anymore. It's about routine built through randomness. And once checking becomes routine, the easiest thing to feed that routine is emotion, because emotion increases attention. So how does TikTok, aka the hype machine, affect this? A hype machine does not do nuance, it does urgency. It turns complex situations into hero versus villain storylines because storylines travel faster than context. Yellow journalism used headlines to pump up emotion until cautious debate sounded weak. Modern platforms do the same thing through engagement. Outrage travels farther than patience, calm expectations feel boring next to conflict, so they get ignored. Over time, the culture starts treating patience like weakness, even when patience is the only thing that produces clarity. And the thing with yellow journalism, just go back to like the older World Wars and stuff like that, bro. Them headlines were just going crazy. The news just did whatever the fuck they wanted, and the public was just eating it up because that's all they had. But nowadays we got TikTok, and that's kind of like replace our yellow journalism. So what does it do for the culture? When loops and chases become normal, culture shifts in predictable ways. First, numbness becomes common. Overstimulation flattens emotion, so people chase extremes just to feel something again. And then you got the copy and spread culture. Originality becomes a risk. Templates become safe, and trends replicate because replication is efficient. And then relationships get treated like options. Too many choices make patience rare, so replacement becomes easier than repair. Dating apps is a fucking great example for that one. And then burnout starts looking like a lifestyle. People consume to cope, then grind to afford consumption, and repeat until exhaustion feels like personality. So those are the 4 things I really see in society, and it shows how gluttony makes people numb and greed makes people competitive, and together they make a society restless. Tismallah and Jboolin are not the story, they are the mirror. One represents the loop and one represents the chase. The bigger story is a culture that keeps training people to want more, consume more, prove more, and stay unsatisfied because unsatisfied behavior is profitable behavior. Overall, that is what makes greed and gluttony feel less like moral categories and more like the default settings in modern life. So the question is not who is guilty. The question is what kind of society gets built when appetite becomes the baseline mood. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And again, nothing against Jboolin, nothing against Tismallah. They're doing their things. I'm just telling you how greed and gluttony applies to their content. If you stayed to the end, thank you. Hope you guys enjoy my thoughts on greed and gluttony and how they affect the society. Hope you have a nice day.
I'ma get right back to you. I'ma get right back to it. I'm get floated in time about I can just see my influence. Yeah, outside we can just rock it out. You don't even know what you're doing. I don't even know this hoe.